Since the beginning of time, the age-long argument has been whether man gets to control his future or not. The answer is yes and no. Man gets to control his future by the choices he makes. As an individual, a third party can alter the future of another man by changing his choice slightly. Even if a choice is made a few minutes or a few seconds earlier, this results in a whole new story for the individual and the people who his choice affects. I am one of the watchers, Miss Part, and join me as we watch Season 1, Episode 14, What If Loki Took Over the Time Variance Authority? Dark Loki continued to study the Darkhold, paying no attention to his surroundings. As he did this, Mobius groaned. For a split second, he wondered if giving the Darkhold to Loki was the best option. Nevertheless, he needed Dark Loki's help, and giving him the Darkhold was the only way to improve his power. He turned to see Ned, sitting on the floor, still traumatized for another split second. Mobius immediately regretted what he made the boy go through. He knew that Ned was not a killer by heart. This was all Mobius's fault. He had made Ned kill Peter Parker. At least all he could do now was comfort the young lad. He sat down by Ned and touched him on the shoulder, asking him if he was okay. Ned admitted that he was far from okay, but he was trying to be strong. He turned to Mobius and asked him what now. Mobius noted that he would have to find another reality to damage so that Dark Loki could channel its power. Ned noted that while Dark Loki seemed like a power-hungry maniac, Mobius seemed like a pretty nice person. Then why is he doing all of this? Mobius admitted that his story was a very long and sad tale. Ned said that he would be okay with the story at that moment. After all, Mobius's story would distract him from his own grief. And with that, Mobius began to tell his story. But to tell his story, he would have to retrace it from the day all of the madness ended. Reality 444, 2 years ago. Loki and Sylvie could not believe it. They were finally standing in front of He Who Remains. While they admired the astonishing citadel at the end of time, He Who Remains immediately informed them that he had orchestrated their infiltration into the citadel, an act which earned him a scuffle from the two. Loki and Sylvie had just encountered Miss Minute, who had given them a tempting offer to stop their quest of discovering the founder of the Time Variance Authority. However, they had seen past it, and now they were here. This was now the moment of truth. He Who Remains immediately informed his visitors of the origins of the TVA. There had been a multiversal war brewing as a result of some power-hungry variants of him. Kang the Destroyer created a sacred timeline. He was able to banish these variants. As he spoke, He Who Remains turned to me and winked. Of course, I knew that there were other variants of He Who Remains in multiple realities, but all these variants had the same goal: to prevent the emergence of the Kang the Destroyer. With the sacred timeline already compromised thanks to the ridiculous actions of Sylvie in the original one, I knew that Kang the Destroyer had breached some realities already. Nevertheless, some realities like this one were still safe and sound, and I hoped it remained that way. But if the Sylvie did what many of her counterparts did, another variant of Kang the Destroyer would be released into millions of realities. As expected, He Who Remains gave the ultimatum, once again. Kill him and unleash his variants, or take over the Time Variance Authority. To my relief, the duo agreed to spare his life. Reality 444, a year ago. Loki walked around the TVA headquarters, arranging his uniform. Several soldiers saluted him as they passed by, and he gave them an acknowledging nod. Hunter B-15 smiled at him as she passed as well. He was sort of their leader now, and they owed him that respect. Even since he took over the TVA, Loki had decided to do things differently. Ravonna had gotten people to stay by suppressing memories of their lives on Earth. However, Loki had ensured the TVA of this reality went to several realities, finding variants who felt lost and alone. Loki had given them purpose in the TVA. Several times they encountered their counterparts from other realities. With a salute, they always continued their jobs. Things could not have been better. To Loki's amusement, Renslayer had found life as a school teacher back on Earth. Mobius had found love, gotten married, and adopted 2 girls. Of course, Loki still had Sylvie and Hunter B-15 by his side. Nothing could go wrong. Reality 444, 6 months ago. Loki had not expected Mobius to visit him anytime soon. When he had given Mobius a tempad, he was rather convinced that Mobius would not use it. He was wrong. Mobius looked torn and dejected. Something was clearly amiss. Loki asked Mobius what was wrong, and Mobius bursted into tears, noting that his family was gone. Reality 444, 6 months ago. Hunter B-15 and Loki looked at the hologram of the breaking, sacred timeline. After a brief study of the timeline, Loki realized that Mobius's family was meant to die in the war against Ultron. Sad casualties of the Sokovia incident. When a dejected Mobius asked what could be done, Loki noted that there was nothing they could do and nothing that they would do. When Mobius asked why, Hunter B-15 responded by noting that Mobius's family was a fixed point. It had to happen in that reality, and there was absolutely nothing the TVA could do to prevent it. It was an absolute point. Mobius looked at Loki and began to remind Loki of the god's instance that humans could determine their fate. After all, they had free will. Loki nodded his head in agreement, but nodded that there was nothing he could do. Mobius added that Loki is the head of the TVA. With one command, he could have the entire TVA finding a way to change the timeline, even fix an absolute point. But Loki's mind was dead set, and he wasn't changing it. With anger, Mobius stepped out of the room, swearing that he would have his revenge. Reality 444 in the present. Loki stood in his chambers, his eyes staring at the new statue that had been eradicated for him. The TVA had been very busy for the past few weeks. Pruning the multiple realities Mobius had created was rather difficult, especially as Mobius had a variant of Loki on his side. "You shouldn't be in here," Loki said. Mobius emerged out of the darkness, asking if Loki would call for his arrest. Loki noted that he did not want to hurt Mobius, but if Mobius did not stop his madness, he would be forced to stop him by any means necessary. Mobius noted and asked Loki why he didn't change the timeline for his sake. Loki responded by noting that he was past cheating destiny, and with that Mobius walked away. What Loki didn't tell Mobius was that I personally instructed him not to change the timeline for anybody's sake. Even as I couldn't interfere, I could render caution. Ever since Loki took over the TVA, he gained the ability to see and communicate with cosmic beings like me and Avenges. As I looked at Loki now, I told him that he did the right thing. Loki only signed and informed me to contact Avenges to barricade the doors between realities. We cannot have Mobius in his grief attempt another stupid ploy. And that is going to be what if Loki had took over the TVA. You can kind of see how some of the previous episodes to Season 1 have officially connected, like what if Ned Leeds had become Spider-Man, and what if Odin had lived, with Loki having the Darkhold and becoming evil with Mobius. If you guys do enjoy these videos and want to stay all up to date with the latest content, I would highly recommend you to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. That being said, take care and have a fantastic day.